Thanks. Good morning, everyone. How we doing? Sermon notes and pens. Who needs sermon notes and pens? Just raise your hand and we will get them to you. Okay, yes, I have a black eye. Whoever wants, it just happens. Let's not even go there. Everybody's looking at me really funny. She looks worse than you do, he said. It wasn't anything like that. It was just not even going to go there. All right, here we go. Let's get started this morning. We are in part 6 of our Whisper series, and today we're going to learn how to test the whisper. This morning, I was filling something out, which is quite interesting. I was filling out a request for a top secret security clearance for a neighbor in Madison. This is from the U.S. government, okay? So see, there's some good things that come out of Madison. But as I was going through this, there was a young man who grew up there, and as I was going through it, they were asking all these questions, and I haven't seen this young man in a long, long time, maybe 4 or 5 years, but from what I remember from him, he was just a really, really good kid. He went into the military, and now he's at this really, really high level. But as I was filling it out, I was thinking, do I know this kid well enough to make these statements about him? And the security of our nation is relying on someone from Iowa Street. This could be a dangerous thing. This could be something we have to look into. But I was just thinking, do I know him? And it's kind of what we're going to talk about today, testing the whisper. Do we know the voice? I read this the other day. With the passing of the bell ringer at the large cathedral, the priest put an advertisement in the paper for a bell ringer. Soon after that, there was a knock at the door. The priest opened the door, and to his amazement, there was a man there with no arms. "May I help you?" the priest said. "Yes," the man replied. "I'm here to apply for the bell ringer job." The priest said, "But sir, you have no arms. How will you ring the bell?" "Oh, don't worry about that. I assure you that I can ring the bell," the man replied. So the priest thought it over for a minute, decided to give the man a chance. The priest said, "Okay, it's almost 12 noon, and if you can ring the bell 12 times, you've got the job." The priest led the man up to the bell tower and showed him the bell. At the stroke of 12, the man stood back and ran at the bell, hitting it full force with his face. The man kept doing it, hitting it over and over, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. However, at the 10th time, he started to get dizzy. The 11th hit took its toll, and the man started to wobble, and on the 12th run, he completely missed the bell, flew right by it and right out the window. The poor man splattered on the street below. The priest ran down the stairs as fast as he could, and when he arrived on the street, there was already a large crowd that gathered around the motionless man. A police officer yelled, "Does anyone know this man?" And the priest, who had ran down the stairs, yelled back, "No, but his face rings a bell." I thought that was a pretty good one. No? It was a good, wasn't it, Dave? I like it. Not politically correct, but it's okay. Okay. You ever get a phone call? Phone call may say unknown caller or private number, but then when you answer the phone, you can recognize the voice, and it's kind of like your voice rings a bell. The voice on the other line rings a bell. Jesus told us this. He told us that we would be able to recognize his voice. If you look at on the screen, you'll see John 10:27 says this: "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." So we've been working on, for the past 6 weeks or so, we have been working on the voice of God, or the whisper, as we call it. Last week I talked to you about impressions, hearing things from God. And what I want to do this week is I want to just kind of test the impression, because a lot of times you'll hear these things and you'll think, is this from God? Is this from the devil? Or am I just talking to myself? I don't know if anybody ever does that, but I remember I was walking around the block one day and I was doing what I call a prayer walk, and I was praying out loud and basically talking to myself. And there's this lady who kind of crazy lady. I guess we're being totally politically incorrect today, but she was walking around also, and she was talking to herself. And I looked over at her and I thought to myself, well, look at that crazy lady talking to herself. And I was doing the same thing. So a lot of times, we do things, we hear things, we say things, and I just want to look today, and I'm going to look in Matthew, the 16th chapter, and I'm going to look at how we can test this voice, how we can know it's God. And so here's kind of the scenario. There's this time, and Jesus is walking with his boys, and they're just kind of hanging out. And they're walking to this place, or through this place called Caesarea Philippi. And Jesus is engaging with them. He's talking to them. He's making a conversation with them. And he kind of sits them down, and he asks them a question. And he says to them, and you can see it up on the screen, "Who do men say that I am?" Just a general question. Who do men say that I am? They begin a response in a real general term. Some say Elijah. Some say Jeremiah. Some say John the Baptist. If we'd ask in our culture, who do men say that Jesus is? We would get a lot of different answers. We would get, he was probably a prophet, or he was, just a good man. He was a good moral teacher or a religious leader. But we don't always get to the real gist of it, because listen, here's the thing. This particular question, who do men say that I am? This particular question has to be answered by every generation, by every culture, and by every individual. It is the question that must be answered. And so then Jesus, here's their general answer. But then he gets very, very specific. And he looks at him and he says, "But who do you say that I am?" Who do you, and that's the first whisper, who do you say that I am? Because listen, it's a whisper that we have to answer. And if we don't answer that whisper, if we don't answer that question from Jesus, the purpose and the direction of our life will never be a direction for God. Because Jesus said this, "Apart from me, you can do nothing." But the thing about nothing, he doesn't mean that you can't do anything, because we do stuff. But what he's saying is we can't do anything that has any eternal value. And so when it comes to this point of this whisper, he says, "Who do you say that I am?" The interesting thing is the whisper is a question, and throughout the scripture, God has this way of drawing us in. God has this way of asking us questions. In the Old Testament, there's this guy named Jacob. And one night, Jacob is out, and he gets in a wrestling match, and he gets in a grappling match, and that's how this black eye happened, by the way. But he gets in a wrestling match, a grappling match, and Jacob begins to get a dominant position on this man. Some people say it's a theophany, the appearance of Jesus in the Old Testament. Whatever it is, whatever the person is, Jesus gets a dominant position, probably a submission, and he's ready to tap the guy out. And because the guy says this, "Let me go." And Jacob says, "I will not let you go until you bless me." And then the man says this. He asks the question. He whispers the same thing that Jesus whispers. "What is your name?" Now here's the thing. Jacob didn't really know for sure, because he had tried to deceive his father into getting a blessing from him, because he passed himself off as his brother Esau in this particular story. Now, the thing about it is you have to understand what's going on in the culture. In the culture of Jacob and the culture of Jesus, the name meant something. The name wasn't just a name. It had to do with your character, who you are, what the essence of your being was. It was what made you